The listing said the whole place was ours for the week. It didn't mention the locked door at the end of the hall, and it definitely didn't mention that the host still had a way in, because every night that locked door was open again, and every morning something had been moved. We were paying to stay in a house that someone else had never actually left. Welcome back. It's just you and me in the dark tonight. 3 true stories about vacation rentals. Those houses we hand our trust to, sight unseen, and sleep in for a week, never really knowing who else has a key. Let's begin. My partner and I booked a rental for a week away. A nice old house, remote, great photos, glowing reviews. The kind of place you feel lucky to find. The host met us with the keys, showed us around, was perfectly friendly. And on the tour, I noticed a door at the end of the upstairs hall that he walked us right past. When I asked about it, he said easily, "Oh, that's just storage, it's locked. Don't worry about it." Totally normal. Lots of rentals have an owner's closet. I didn't think twice. The first morning that door was open, just a few inches, standing ajar at the end of the hall. I figured the host had come by, or it hadn't been locked properly, and I pushed it shut, and it latched, and I forgot about it. The next morning, it was open again, and this time, downstairs, things were subtly different. A kitchen chair moved, the throw blanket on the couch refolded, our shoes by the door, which we'd kicked off in a pile, lined up neatly. Little things. The kind of thing a very tidy person does. In a house we'd locked up tight before bed. I messaged the host. I said, "Hey, has anyone been in the house? The door's been opening and things are getting moved." And he replied, friendly as ever, "No one should be in there but you two. Old houses, doors pop open. Enjoy your stay." And I wanted to believe him. But that night we made sure. We locked every door and window. We shut the storage door, and I wedged a chair under the handle. And in the morning the chair was moved aside, the door was open, and downstairs 2 coffee cups had been set out on the counter. For us, maybe, as a nice touch, or as a message. I want to tell you we left then. We didn't because we'd paid for the week, and because the human mind is very good at explaining things away, and my partner kept saying it was probably just an over-attentive host doing turn-down service. But it got worse. That locked storage door. I finally forced it open to see what was so secret. And it wasn't storage. It was a small bedroom, lived in, a made bed, clothes in the closet, a book on the nightstand with a bookmark in it, someone's toothbrush damp in a cup in a little sink. Someone was living in that room, in the house we'd rented. Behind a door the host told us was storage, and there was a second door in that little room, not to the hall, to the rest of the house, a connecting way in that didn't need the hall door at all. We found out later, going back through the reviews we should have read more carefully, that we weren't the first to notice the door. Buried among the glowing 5-star ratings were a couple of strange, quiet ones. Beautiful house, but we felt like we weren't alone. Lovely stay. Just ignore the door upstairs. The host says it's storage. We left a day early, personal reasons. At the time, anyone booking after them would have skimmed right past those the way we did, the way you do. Because who cancels a vacation over a vague bad feeling and a locked closet? And that's the genius of it, if you can call it that. The complaints were never loud enough, never specific enough to scare anyone off. Just a faint pattern of unease, spread thin across years of happy guests, that you'd only ever notice if you went looking. And by the time you'd want to go looking, You were already there, already unpacked, already sleeping down the hall from a door that opened itself every night. We packed to leave that night, and as we were loading the car in the dark, my partner grabbed my arm, because there was a light on in that upstairs room, the little bedroom behind the storage door. A warm light glowing in the window and a shape moving behind the curtain. Someone was up there. Someone was in that room right then, watching us pack our car to flee. And when I looked up, the shape at the window lifted a hand and waved, slow, friendly, the exact same easy, friendly way the host had waved when he'd first handed us the keys and told us not to worry about the door at the end of the hall. We drove through the night, and when I reported it, the booking company found that the listing had been taken down, the host account deleted, within hours of our leaving, like they'd simply packed up the whole operation and moved it somewhere else, to another house, another listing, another couple who'd get the tour and be told not to worry about the locked door and sleep soundly in a house that someone was never planning to leave. That listing simply moved on to its next guests. The next woman never got a locked door to worry about at all. Just a page of reviews describing in perfect detail a night she hadn't lived yet. She booked a little studio apartment for a solo trip. Good reviews, good price. And on her first night, jet-lagged and bored, she was scrolling the listings reviews on her phone, in bed, just reading. And one review stopped her cold. It was recent and it said, "Lovely place, but be warned. The radiator clanks at exactly 2 a.m. and it'll wake you. And the street light outside flickers all night. Bring an eye mask." A perfectly normal review. Except as she read it, the radiator clanked, loudly, at 2 a.m. exactly. And the street light outside her window was, in fact, flickering. Coincidence, she thought. Old buildings clank, street lights flicker. But she kept reading, and the reviews got stranger. Another one said, "The woman in the apartment above walks around a lot at night. You'll hear her pacing." And above her, right then, footsteps began to pace. Another, "I swear the closet door doesn't stay shut. I kept finding it open." And she looked, and the closet door, which she'd shut, was open. Each review she read described something that then happened, or that she then noticed in real time. As if the reviews weren't describing other people's stays at all, as if they were describing hers, as it happened. A step ahead. She sat there in the dark of that studio for a long time after that, trying to think it through, trying to find the trick of it, because there had to be a trick. A host with too much time, watching a hidden camera, typing reviews in real time to unsettled guests. That was frightening, but it was human. It was explainable. But then she thought about the earliest reviews, the ones from months and years ago, describing the radiator, the streetlight, the pacing upstairs, all the little truths of the place. Those had been posted long before she'd ever booked. And they too, she realized, had described her night exactly, precisely, a night that hadn't existed yet when they were written. You can type a review in real time to torment the guest in front of you. You cannot write one a year in advance that predicts the exact minute a stranger's radiator will clank. And that was when she stopped hunting for the trick and started packing her suitcase, because some part of her had understood that the reviews weren't watching her. They were something worse. They were waiting for her. They always had been. She got to the most recent review, posted she saw, just that day, hours ago. And it said, "The guest staying here now seems nervous. She keeps reading the reviews. She should really stop reading the reviews and go to sleep. It's not going to help her." She dropped the phone. She was the guest staying there now. She was reading the reviews, and a review posted that day by a stranger was describing her in that moment doing exactly that. She left in the middle of the night, walked to a hotel with her suitcase, and never went back. And when she checked the listing again from safety days later, that last review was gone. But there was a new one at the top, dated the day she'd fled. And it said, "This guest left early. They usually do. The next one won't get the chance." She reported the listing. "It's still up," she told me, "still taking bookings, still collecting reviews." And she has never been able to bring herself to read them, to see whose night is being described now, a step ahead by someone who is somehow always already there. You can always choose to stop reading the reviews. The last story tonight offers no such choice. It's the one that made me stop trusting the word private in a rental listing at all, because it's about a host who was always somehow already inside. A family rented a house for a week, whole house private, their own keys, the works, and the host in the welcome message was lovely, said to make themselves at home, that he lived nearby, that he'd pop over only if they needed anything. Standard. The first evening they came back from dinner, unlocked the house, and the host was inside. Standing in the kitchen, he apologized, said he'd just come to check the water heater, so sorry, should have messaged, and he let himself out. A little odd, but okay. Hosts have keys. It's their house. But it kept happening. Every time they left and came back, he was there. They'd go to the beach, come back. He'd be in the living room, just fixing a blind. They'd go to dinner, come back. He'd be in the hall, just checking the smoke alarm. Always with a friendly, reasonable excuse. Always already inside. No matter how quickly they returned, no matter that they never saw his car, never passed him on the road. It was as if he was in the house whenever they weren't, and only ever got caught because they came back sooner than he expected. They messaged the booking company, who told them a host is not permitted to enter without notice and to tell him to stop. They told him. He apologized profusely, promised he wouldn't come again. And the next time they came home, he wasn't in the kitchen or the living room or the hall. But the father heard something and followed it and found a door in the back of the pantry they hadn't noticed. A door to a narrow service stair, and at the bottom of it a small basement room. And the host was down there, sitting in a chair, in the dark, surrounded by a little setup, a cot, a lamp, a monitor showing feeds from cameras throughout the house they'd been living in all week. He wasn't letting himself in and out at all. He'd never left. He lived down there, below them the whole time, watching the cameras, coming up into the house whenever they went out and retreating down when they came back. The checking the water heater had just been the times he'd misjudged and gotten caught above ground. The police, going through that basement room, pieced together how long he'd been at it, and it turned the father's stomach. The cameras weren't new. The setup wasn't recent. This man had owned the house for years, and in all that time he had never once rented it out as what it really was. He'd rented a lie. Every listing, every warm welcome message, every friendly note about making yourself at home, all of it was bait, designed to keep a steady supply of families cycling through the rooms above him, so that he'd always have someone new to watch. He didn't want the rental income. He wanted the guests. And the most chilling detail, the one the father said he'll carry with him forever, was a little logbook they found beside the cot, where the man had kept notes on every family that had ever stayed. Names, dates, small observations, and beside some of the entries, the ones he'd apparently liked the most, he'd drawn a tiny star. Their family, the father saw, just before an officer took it gently out of his hands, already had a star beside their name. After only a few days, he had already decided they were one of his favorites. They left that instant, all of them, in one carload, and called the police from the road. And the booking company, of course, removed the listing within the day. But the father told me the thing that he can't get out of his head. It wasn't the cot, or the cameras, or even the man in the dark. It was that in that little basement room, on the wall, there were photographs of families, family after family, smiling on vacation in that house, in the living room, at the kitchen table, asleep in the beds. Years of guests, photographed from the inside by the man who lived below them and watched them enjoy their week in his house, and was still there, in the dark, under the floor, long after each of them had checked out and driven home and forgotten the place entirely. His house was never a rental. It was a hide, and every booking just brought him something new to watch. That's all for tonight. If this one's got you rethinking your next getaway, then you know what to do. Subscribe and hit that bell, because there's a brand new true horror story here every single night and you won't want to miss one. Give it a like so it finds the next person in the dark, and share it with someone who's got a trip coming up. I'll be right here tomorrow night when the lights go down. Sleep well, if you can.
Like, share, and subscribe for daily horror stories every single day.